Happy Valentine's Day! Woo! Happy Valentine's Day! Today is Valentine's Day. I doubt this video will be posted on Valentine's Day, considering it ends in 3 hours. But happy Valentine's Day, you guys. Since nobody else probably told you, I'll tell you right now. The fact that it is Valentine's Day kind of led me to talk about what I'm going to talk about today, and that is relationships, dating, situationships, talking stages, all of it. And I am kind of just going off of whatever I wanted to talk about, sharing some of my dating history, stories I have. I'm actually telling really juicy stories that I have only told a handful of people. But, you know, I like to say my life isn't that crazy, but a lot of my craziest stories lie in the dating department or talking stage area. You know what I mean? Those are where all my good stories are, and I don't tell a lot of people those. So, really excited to get down and dirty today. I'm honestly gonna try to riff as much as possible, but I do have an outline structure. But every time I do have an outline, I kind of just go off of it way too much, and I don't really want to do that. So, first off, I'm going to start off with my dating timeline. A little backstory about me is that I've only had one real boyfriend, despite all the talking stages, all the situationships, all the times. Like, I have been talking to boys forever and ever and all the time and always, and I've only had one real boyfriend, okay? And something about me is that my older brother Max found his girlfriend like senior year of high school. They were living together in college. They got married right after college. They have lived together ever since. They have a kid together. Like, his life was kind of just like 18 and onward was with the same person. He did like more dating in high school than I did. So, having divorced parents, getting into it, my parents are divorced. I feel like Max and his wife, Melody, were really my blueprint and my example. So, basically, I was always talking to guys and on and off and stuff, and I've always been very boy crazy. I've talked about this before, but basically, it was my sophomore year of high school, and then I had a crush on this guy, right? Had a crush on this guy, you know, successfully started dating him. And I want to say that was my first real boyfriend. Like, I wouldn't consider anything else real, because everything else would last a month or less. So I don't think any of those were really, really real, except for this one. So the mindset I had going into this was like, this is going to be my person forever. I'm going to copy Max's outline, and that's going to be how my life goes. And me and this boyfriend were the couple in high school that broke up and got back together many times, right? We all of our high schools had one of those. I was lucky enough to be that for other people. I'm going to move the camera angle a little bit because I'm relaxing. But yeah, I was the girl in the couple that broke up and got back together many times. And I don't know if it's because I was in a relationship, but I was a grade older than him, and I feel like a lot of people cared about our relationship. Like, it was something to talk about and to examine closely. Really, really weird. I don't know why. It's just like, was kind of the talk of the town if we ever broke up, if we ever got back together. It was just like something to talk about. And my high school was very full of drama, people talking about stuff, depending on what groups you ran in. But a lot of drama surrounding my relationship followed me around. So me and this guy were on and off for about 4 years. So it was sophomore year of high school to sophomore year of college. That's a very, very long time. And when I say on and off, it was almost like, oh my God, it was almost like every 3 months, like 3-month periods on, 3 months off, 3 months on. It was like clockwork. It was crazy. And basically, what was the story here? Anyways, I'll just talk about how I was going to leave for college and he was still a grade below me, and he was talking to his coworkers and they were like, yeah, they said it's not going to work out whenever you move, so we should just break up now. And I was like, what? What? You just want to give up? Like, you don't want to try? He was like, they said it's not going to work. And I was like, okay, so no, we're going to try to make it work. We're going to work on this. We're going to communicate. blah, 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 blah. I moved across the country, and I guess they were kind of onto something because my entire life changed. I always say that I don't remember anything before I moved to college, and I truly think that moving away from my hometown and going to college, I completely just blocked out the rest of my life before that. I only remember who I was after college. So we ended up breaking up pretty early on into my freshman year, and I was single like almost my entire freshman year of college. And I had the background of, one, being a very goody two-shoes, and two, being very much a relationship person. And this was my first time being pushed into the mindset of kind of hookup culture. And for me, I thought I could navigate hookup culture. I could not. Also, I say hookup very loosely. A lot of the stories I'm going to tell today are way more PG than you would probably expect, but they're all very PG. Might get a little PG-13 at some points, but, you know, whatever. So I was trying to get into, like, this hookup culture and talking to multiple guys. Like, just, whenever I say hookup, I mean, like, kissing. So I tried it, and I was like, wow, this is really not for me. Because I was catching feelings for every single person I ever came near. So I was like, wow, hookup culture is really not for me, and I don't think I can do this. And I knew that, I don't know, it was like my first time experimenting outside of my, oh my gosh, sorry. It was kind of like my first time experimenting outside of my long-term relationship, and I was like, they don't understand me. Because if you think about it, every time I got back together with my ex, I was like, this guy gets me, because he's literally my ex. And I was like, every time I get with these guys, they don't know me. And I just wouldn't let them. So eventually my ex reached out to me many, many months later to catch up. And he caught me at a really good time because I was missing a relationship. And it felt like nobody I was running into wanted a relationship. So he reached out and I was like, yes, okay. And we got back together. And we were basically together for my entire sophomore year. And this is for another video, but I was doing long distance that entire year. And I would say that is like one of the worst years of, like, one of the worst school years, one of the, just like the worst years in general, but I'll talk about that maybe another time. And it was just very, very controlling, yet not controlling, but you just wanted to be a good girlfriend and do all the right things. And sometimes that meant doing things that you didn't want to, or holding yourself back from other experiences, yada, yada, yada. That's not the point of this video. So basically, we ended up breaking up finally my sophomore year, and that means that I have been single for 3 whole years now. And you might be thinking, wow, you're a loser. You're a loser. You don't talk to guys. You don't get play, some would say. I don't know who, but some. That's actually not true. Ha! I have always talked to guys, okay? I am still very boy crazy. One thing about that 4-year relationship is that, like, I left that relationship very well off, very in tune with myself. I hate to say this, but I don't think I cried once, okay? When that was over, it was almost like a weight off of my chest, and I was very, very happy to be independent, but that did not make me not boy crazy. And I talked to a lot of boys, okay? And I had 2 situationships that I would consider my ex. Like, I refer to these 2 as some of my exes. So I have 1 real ex where that was a real relationship and 2 fake exes. One was like a month-long situationship, and then he was like, nah, it's just not gonna work out. I can't even talk about that one because it low-key just pisses me off that it did upset me as much as it did, because the one after that, holy shit, you guys. It was basically that, but for 4 months. And something about me and my experience in dating is that every single time I would talk to one of these guys, it would get better and better. And I was like, oh my God, I'm being treated so well. And then I would talk to the next guy and I'd be like, oh my God, wait, he's treating me even better. And then I was like, all of these guys before, I kind of knew it was like bare minimum, like, girl, you were settling, girl, these guys do not want to date you. I always knew it in the back of my head. And this was like really the one where I was like, oh my God, I didn't think it could get better than like that first situationship. And then this one is just flawless. And I was like, this is so beautiful. And I was so happy. And yada, yada, yada. It ended up being not a good time. Okay? And we stopped talking. So we were never officially dating, but we talked for about 4 months. And it was very serious and very poorly handled on both fronts, but that's okay. So, yes, I have been single for 3 years. This is my third Valentine's Day by myself. Also, a couple of them, most of them, were spent alone anyways because we were long distance. So, I feel like I've been alone most Valentine's Days, and genuinely, being single and alone on Valentine's Day is so underrated. The things you have to do, the lengths you have to go to, like, I know you love this person and I know you want to show them all this affection, but if I had to buy somebody something right now, oh my God, my bank account. Oh! My bank account would assassinate me because it's not looking good. And if I had to buy somebody a jelly cat, I'm trying to think of that's what you would buy a girl. I don't know what you would buy a guy. Chocolates, some like gym tool, whatever the fuck. If I had to buy that for somebody right now, I would actually be very upset to do so. So being single feels very, very good. I know some of you aren't thinking that today. You're very sad. You're very down. Me as well for half of the day probably. But then the other half is sunshiny rainbows, and it's really, really nice and beautiful. Don't worry. I currently, as far as dating, I have become very, very uninterested. Okay? And I'm really scared of who I've become. I look in the mirror and I don't recognize myself. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this means, but I have never been like so disgusted, disinterested. I try to talk to people and I just hate it. I look at everything that's related to a couple and I don't want any part of it. I'm sorry if you're one of my friends, but my friends talk to me about these guys and I just can't stand to hear it because I've been through hell and back when it comes to relationships and stuff, and I'm at the point where I'm fed up. I'm sick of it. I'm not playing any games. I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm not doing any part of it. It pisses me off. So that's where I'm at right now, feeling no emotions towards any single person. I'm not wishing to be with anybody, and it's really, really freeing. It's also really, really sad to realize. I had like this whole epiphany the other day that I lost the lover girl, the hopeless romantic in myself, and it's like I don't know how to function without that side of myself. And I also feel really bad when people try to like talk to me about experiences that they're having because I physically like get angry that I'm like, you're wasting your time on this? Like, you're talking to these guys? Like, what, you, like, they don't care about you. They're not going to do anything for you. Oh my God. I just, like, it's really just personal problems. So, like, sorry if you're one of my friends, but, ooh, I just can't. Like, once you've done it for a very, very long time, it's just so draining and so annoying and so frustrating. But anyways, I wanted to tell you guys some of, like, my dating stories as far as, like all the typical questions, like your first kiss, your first date, your worst date that you've ever had. But all of my stories are like really boring. Like nothing has really ever happened to me. If you were here in like my first YouTube podcast, whatever situation, I talked about my first kiss and how I have kissed somebody from preschool till now. I would kiss these twins that were in my preschool class, and I don't know what that's about. I am so sorry to them, but I don't think they remember because I brought it up in like high school and they don't remember. So anyways, my first like official kiss, like a really big monumental moment, was I invited this guy over in like 6th grade and his mom dropped him off, and we went upstairs and we kissed. Then he went home and thought it would be an amazing idea to tell his mom, yeah, we kissed. Bitch, why did you tell your mom that we kissed? That's none of her fucking business. Anyways, his mom told my mom, and then my mom was like, you are never having a boy upstairs ever again. So from 6th grade on, I have never had a boy upstairs in my room. Like, maybe once me and my 4-year relationship got to like 4 years, basically, then he was allowed upstairs. Rarely, you know? So it's really, really silly to me that like one of my first official kisses was at my house, and it just like took away this entire thing for me for the rest of my life. But that's one of my first kisses that I can remember. My worst date I've ever been on, it's not really like, nothing was like really my worst date, but I think it's really, really interesting that I've had 3 different guys plan the same exact date for me, like on repeat. So if you live in San Diego, here's what a guy will do. He'll either get In-N-Out, and then you'll take it to the sunset and then watch the sunset while you eat In-N-Out, or you watch the sunset and then you get In-N-Out on your way back. That has happened to me so many times. It's actually crazy. I wouldn't say like anything was the worst date. I can't remember. There was times where I would go on dates with this one guy and I knew deep down in my soul, I was like, I don't like you. I was like, you're not listening to me. You're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm saying all these things at you, but like, where are they going? They're sitting in the space and they look amazing, but why aren't they absorbing into your brain? Oh, maybe because it's so small. Oh, maybe it's because you're a pussy ass bitch and I don't like you. Oh my God. I really hate that guy. Anyways, I think that's like all the general stories of everything that I could tell you off of the top of my head. Maybe these other things are saved for another time. Let's just get into the really fun and interesting horror stories. Some of these aren't even horror stories, they're just funny stories that I have from dating, from talking to guys, from all these other different things. And I'm opening up about some things that I have never really shared publicly, which is really, really funny to me because I used to be a like YouTuber for like SDSU, not like for SDSU, but I used to make YouTube videos about SDSU, my college, and I would talk about how I never partied, how I never did this, how I never did that. And then towards like my later years, I did get into parties, into frats, into all that thing. So, one of like my earliest stories, like I think this was like, I don't want to give like timelines, but this was basically freshman year. This was one of the craziest stories I had. I was on all the apps for like the first time ever. And I think being on dating apps in like a college town on a college campus is not as scary because it's like, that's just a student at my school. You know, it's like, it's more trustworthy when it's just somebody that you could run into casually on campus. I don't know. So I was texting with this one guy. I thought he was like really cool because he was on one of the sports teams, which I don't know why we give such a standard to like an athlete on campus, but there's just some talk about it where it's like, ooh, they're an athlete. Whoa, I'm just an ARP. And he was an athlete, so I just found this allure to him. And one time he was like, come over. And I was like, oh, no. No, I can't come over. What are you talking about? And basically, with a little push from one of my friends, I ended up going over there. I have never experienced so much, like, this is how you know you're in the wrong place. It's because your body is telling you that you're in the wrong place. I experienced so much anxiety going over to his apartment. I was laying down in his bed, like, shaking. We were, like, watching a TV show. I was physically, like, shaking, and he was like, are you, like, cold? Like, what's up? He was like, are you nervous? He was an absolute fuckboy, which is like, oh my God, I just knew. And honestly, I think I was so nervous because I knew this part was coming. And basically, he was like, so, like, you know how they do it. They're like, what are you trying to get into? Like, basically implying that he wanted to have sex. And, you know, I'm not that kind of girl. I'm not that girl, okay? And I was like, oh no, oh no, like, no, that's not happening. And then he looks at me and he goes, so why'd you come over if you don't want to have sex? Oh? Oh. Right. Right. No, like, obviously. Oh my God, I'm so silly. I am so silly. I'm so sorry. Ah, I'll just be on my way out then. Because what the hell? And for the longest time, I don't know why I convinced myself like that was something normal. Like, I don't know why I convinced myself that I was in the wrong in that situation, and I'm so glad I can look at it now and be like, yo, what the heck happened there? What? Long story short, like, I blocked him, we never spoke again, and that's the end of it. That's all that happened. One of the other things that happened, this is just kind of like a funny, silly story. It's not that much tea, but I met this guy during my freshman year, and he was a junior transfer student. And I was like, oh my God, like, me pulling a junior, like, I'm so awesome. And basically, we were talking, like, he pulled the mother-in-law card. He called my mom his mother-in-law, which, if I had a nickel for every time a guy called my mother his mother-in-law when they had no intention of actually taking me seriously, oh my God, I could probably have a whole dollar bill by now. But basically, like, we were just like flirty back and forth, like, talked for like a month or two or so, and he kind of ghosted me, okay? And I was like, it was fun while it lasted, you know? It was delightful. It was a treat. Thank you so much. And then come to find out, like, he got into like one of the top frats. I don't really give a shit about the ranks and everything of all this, but he ended up being in one of the top fraternities and then became like an it boy. It became like really popular and beloved and like this crazy figure, whatever. And then I ended up telling my roommates later on, like a couple years later, and I was like, oh yeah, like I had a little thing with him. They were like, what? You had a thing with him? What? You? Because also to these roommates, I was like quiet. I just stayed in my room. I like didn't go out with them at all. And they were like, how did you have a thing with him? And it kind of felt like when like someone from your high school becomes famous and you're like, yeah, I went to high school with him. That's kind of how it felt. And I hope he's not watching this because he doesn't deserve to know that he was thought of as hot shit, but he was a really nice guy, so I don't know if I would actually be mad about it, but hope he's doing well. So I am gonna have to put these stories in order of like crazier and crazier. So next up, we have, oh my God, I hate this story. It's not even that big of a deal, but my friend Allison brings it up all the time because my sweet friend Allison has dementia a little bit and early onset. And she forgets about everything I tell her, but she will always remember this story, and I don't know why, but it does haunt me a little bit. So basically, I did end up frequenting this same frat, okay? I got to know a lot of people in this frat. I became friends with a lot of people. A lot of the people that went there became my friends, you know. And there was this guy that was in the fraternity, and a lot of people knew him, and a lot of girls thought he was cute and had a crush on him. And one time I was standing at this party talking to one of my friends, and then a girl next to her who I do not know, okay? And I'm kind of talking to them. I'm like, I've always thought he was like kind of cute, right? And they were like, go talk to him. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to be like every other every other girl, because at every event, like, there's multiple girls going up to him and trying to talk to him, and I'm like, I'm not going to be just one of them, you know? I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of, like, that happening. And for some reason, this girl I don't know took that as, like, oh, she's scared, oh, she's shy. One thing about me is that if I want something, I will go and get it. I don't need help. I don't need assistance. I'm never scared. I'm never shy. I will literally go up to anybody at any time and talk to them. Typically. most of the time. So this wonderful stranger, being the empath that she is, she decided to go up to this man and say, "Hey, my friend over there has a crush on you." I'm sorry. What? What? You're really gonna do me like that? Like this is middle school. Like this is junior high. You're gonna go up to a guy and say, "My friend over there likes you." When I, first of all, didn't ask you to do that. Second of all, do I know you? No. So why are you doing this? And, you know, I'm in a different conversation. I'm kind of like not really listening. Also, it's a house party, so it's loud. And then all of a sudden, I kind of just hear, oh, like he says, the tall one or the short one? And she goes, the tall one. And if anyone's talking about a tall person, I know it's about me. I don't know, like, just tall person things. Like, obviously, you're going to be talking about me. I am tall. And all of a sudden, I'm gone. I am out of there. I'm going boom, boom, boom. I'm pushing people out of the way. There's just times where, like, it felt like I was in a movie. I'm, like, pushing people. Everyone's like, whoa, whoa, what is she doing? I'm, like, punching people. I'm pushing people down. And I'm running out of there. Because no freaking way you're going to do that to me, bro, when I didn't ask you to. And, you know, I end up coming back a little bit later, and she was like, where did you go? Like, he wanted to talk to you. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, well. But, like, I didn't ask you to do that. I don't need you to do that. Thank you so much. It was just mortifying because I'm 100% not the type of person that would ever ask somebody else to go up to somebody else and be like, hey, you know, that would never be me. So making it out for me to be that way, ooh, girl, no. Anyways, moving on to our next story. This is a little bit of a crazier one. I became really good friends with this guy, okay? And in my brain, there's categories for men. And if you have a girlfriend, you are off limits. You are in the off limits category. You are friend only. If a man has a girlfriend, there's no ounce of me that is like, I need him. You know, there's no ounce of me that's going to be like, I'm going to get them to break up. That's not me. That's not me. If you have a girlfriend, I'm respecting that, okay? And I'm drawing a line. So, we're hanging out a lot, and in groups, in big groups. And one of the times he comes in and tells the group, I broke up with my girlfriend. And we were like, ooh, that's crazy. And later on, he ends up being like, I broke up with my girlfriend for you. What? What? In the moment, I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy. No? So I was like, okay, you broke up with your girlfriend for this. Like, let's keep getting to know each other. So we got to know each other. We ended up really enjoying each other's presence, right? And I started taking him very seriously because I started to enjoy him. And I was like, he's pursuing me very heavily, right? So I'm going to pursue him back. And the minute that I started taking him very seriously, he was like, what the hell are you doing? He was like, I don't want a relationship. I don't want to date. No. And this was at the time where I was like, I don't know how to not be in a relationship, basically. I was very relationship oriented. So I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, no. And I was like, so you broke up with your girlfriend to pursue me, yet you got mad when I decided to, like, take you seriously. Crazy. But it is really, really fun to always remind myself, like, that's kind of powerful. To have a guy, like, break up with his longtime girlfriend, that's kind of crazy. But not saying that I condoned it in any way, not saying I pushed that upon him. But I think it's just very crazy to consider. Anyways. Ooh. Next story. This is also a fan favorite amongst my friends. So I did usually attend this fraternity, right? Oh, I'm so sorry if my parents are watching. Basically, at a party, it's kind of inevitable to kiss somebody. Not always, not always. Like, this isn't always how this happens. But there is a lot of the times where it's not crazy that you go out and you kiss somebody. Okay? And there ended up being this guy that, like, I really, really clicked with. And it was kind of like every time I showed up to this fraternity, oh my God, when you show up to his fraternity and he's there, oh, fuck! When you show up to the place that you're expecting him to be and then he's actually there, no! Basically he was in this fraternity and every time I showed up, it was like, hey, and there was multiple occasions where we might have kissed. Sorry. So basically, the new year rolls around. Happy New Year, everybody. I show up to a party, and he goes, nope, I'm not falling for it this semester. And the crowd is nowhere to be found. I feel like in that moment he was waiting for a live studio audience to be like, woo! Yeah! He's not! You know? But instead, I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And he was like, I'm not falling for it this semester. And I was like, okay, use other words because you're still not really making sense. I'm confused. I was like, do you want a relationship? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, me either. Like, why are we being so crazy right now? And basically he was like, I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling for it. And he did end up kissing me by the end of the night. So after that night, he was kind of over me and our whole situation thing, and that's totally fine. Like, this is a man I see at his fraternity. Okay? He's not the end all be all, right? So one time I show up and he is like with another girl and they're like really close and stuff. And I'm like cheering him on in the sense of like, I want him to know that I'm okay. Like I'm not tied to him. I think guys sometimes get the idea that like they are my everything. Like, I just give a lot of attention to, like, the people I like sometimes, or, like, the people I vibe with, but that, I never really put them in that pedestal position until it's, like, very, very serious. So, I was, like, trying to let him know, like, good job, bro, like, she's cute, she's beautiful, like, go for it. And then, I'm not making this up, I am not making this up, he starts going, I don't even know, I don't even know. He starts hitting his head, and I'm like, guys, is he okay? What's going on? So I later asked him, I was like, why were you hitting your head? And he was like, I should have been with you that night. I should have been with you. And I was like, it's okay. Like, it's really okay. And then a couple months later, he starts dating that girl. He starts, like, actually dating that girl. So it's fine. But you know, I just think that whole hitting his head story is just so funny. And also that night, I ended up talking to, like, his roommates and stuff, and I was like, oh, like, hey, like, I'm Chloe, and da-da-da-da, and I, like, told him, like, some stories, and he was like, oh, I know who you are. And I was like, what? He was like, I know who you are. He was like, your name comes up quite frequently in our apartment. They used to watch my vlogs. And then be like, nah, you're taking time out of your day to watch my vlogs. Sir, you're down bad. Now I'm down bad crying at the gym. Everything comes out teenage petulant. Okay, so moving on. I just started telling this final story and I stopped and I questioned actually telling it, but I will tell it, okay? I'm sorry to my mother. So, whenever I tend to get a drink in me, I tend to want just a little bit of nicotine, okay? Not always. This doesn't happen a lot, okay? But this has happened a couple times, and I don't think it'll ever happen again, honestly. But there was this one night where I was like, can I take a hit of your vape? You can tell by the way I talk about it. I just, like, don't really know what's going on. But I was like, can I take a hit of your vape? Right? And then he was like, oh, we have to go up to, like, my room to refill the pod, whatever, of, like, the vape or whatever. And so we go upstairs, and there's a lot of people upstairs, but not a lot, and we end up, like, kissing for maximum, like, 2 seconds. Like, not a lot. We just kissed, like, for a split second, and then we went our separate ways, and it wasn't, like, it was kind of just like, what just happened? And So I move on, okay? A week later, I go to my friend's like half birthday party because she's an icon. And whenever I'm leaving, I'm saying bye to everyone there. I'm like, bye, get home safe. Like, bye, it was great meeting you. And I go up to this girl and I was like, bye, it was like so great to meet you. And she looks at me and she goes, I've been waiting for you to get the fuck out. Whoa! I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry? Wait, what did I do? Wait, what did I do? All of a sudden I'm pacing back and forth. I'm like, what just went on? What happened? And for days I'm racking my brain trying to remember what I did. Like, had terrible anxiety whenever I wasn't even that drunk. And I was like, what just happened? And a week goes by and I'm kind of not thinking about it and I get a follow notification on Instagram. Tell me why Miss Girl went ahead and followed me on Instagram. Okay. So immediately I put the pieces together. This guy was telling me about his toxic ex that was from the same state as me in our short conversation that we had. And so I text him and I say, hey, what's your ex's name? Yeah, it was his ex. She somehow figured out that we kissed once for a split second at a party, and she hated me. But then she followed me on Instagram. So, what? And I almost wanted to text her and be like, you are safe. You are good. Oh, trust you are good. But I never did. And she unfollowed me. She continued to view my stories after unfollowing me. She was very, she checked in on me a lot for the level of disinterest I had for this man. Okay. And, they ended up getting back together. And he blocked me. Understandable. If you, do that. Please do that. If you're getting into a relationship, block a girl if they were an issue. I don't care. Yeah, do it. I don't think I was an issue because I didn't really pay any mind to him, but, she was uncomfortable. Block me. They break up. Notification. He added me back. And I was like, oh my gosh. How did I just get involved in this and I don't care? It was just a very, very crazy chain of events. That was probably the craziest thing that ever happened to me was her telling me to my face, I've been waiting for you to get the... I quote that all the time because I'm like, you should have seen me, the least problematic person. I don't try to ever overstep in any situation. I was like, all right, sweetie, you must have had a lot to drink. I don't even know, what I thought, but that is genuinely one of my favorite stories. But yeah, I don't know. That's just a whole nother beast, some would say. Next, we're going to get into some of my advice I have from dating. I usually have better advice if you come to me directly and ask me specifically, because I'm only 22, but I swear I've been through so much. I've been through so much to the point where I never want to go through anything else again. Something I really wanted to touch on is attachment styles and kind of the anxious versus avoidant attachment. And I think in my 4-year relationship, I didn't even know that there were different types of relationship styles, but I would say I was pretty just neutral. I don't know if the option is there, but I never really worried about him being with other people. I was kind of worried about other people taking that upon themselves. I did know that he lied multiple times about texting certain people, so that would make me upset, but there were times where I was very, very comfortable if he left. So, a little bit of avoidant, I guess you could say. But I experienced something very, very recently where I was very secure. Secure is the word I was looking for. I started this relationship so secure, and I was so sure of what we were going to become, what page we were both on. I just stuttered every single part of that sentence. But I was feeling very, very secure. I didn't think about it twice. I knew who he was to me and what I was to him and who we were together. And then progressively, I got more and more of the anxious attachment style. And this all comes back to love bombing. I have been love bombed many times. And the biggest thing I can tell you is that, oh girl, if they say, it's only love bombing if I stop, they will stop. They will give up. Love bombing, if you're unaware, I don't know the textbook definition. Maybe I should actually look it up. Love bombing doesn't mean that they say, I love you right away, right? It's their actions. It's how they carry themselves. It's how they treat you. Okay, love bombing is a type of emotional manipulation. It's a tactic that is trying to force your trust and dependence so the love bomber quickly becomes the most... Oh my God! The love bomber quickly becomes the most important person in your life. Love bombing, the action or practice of lavishing someone with attention or affection, especially in order to influence or manipulate them. And I just read that definition and many heads went, right here, girl. Yeah, I know, because somehow men are so stupid, yet smart enough to manipulate. We gotta give them some credit where credit is due, because there's one thing they're good at, and it's manipulating. You guys are awesome. Great job. This has happened to me multiple times where immediately right off the bat, they're like complimenting me 50 times a day. They're texting me 24/7. They're calling me for hours on end. And I'm like, this is what I need. This is what I love. This is something like, that's the energy I can keep up through an entire relationship. Once it changes from the love bombing to like the slow down where they're like, I got them, like I'm everything to them, you get so anxious because their entire personality changes. They're not texting you all the time. They're not letting you know where they are. They're never calling you. They're kind of making you feel like they don't want to talk to you at all. They don't want to see you, right? They're not complimenting you as much. And whenever somebody just backs off more and more and more, it just makes you more and more anxious as to like, I thought I knew what this was. I thought I knew what was going to happen. I thought I knew everything about this person, right? So I think that you can have anxious and a secure attachment in one person. It just depends on how they're treating you and how they are dealing with your emotions and whether they're love bombing you or not. Also, I saw a TikTok where it was talking about how this girl thought this guy wasn't completely interested in her. She was like, he does not like me. He thinks I'm annoying. He is not like putting in any effort, but he was just playing it slow, feeling it out, like not jumping into it too quickly. And I think our generation and our day and age, as some would say, has made like love bombing the standard, or made like this dramatic display of affection the standard, to where like somebody could be interested in you, but they're taking it at a normal pace and you're seeing that as disinterested. Does that make sense? I think that's some advice I could really give as somebody who experienced love bombing and all of those things. Also, everybody told me that he was love bombing me and I was like, no, because he's been keeping it up. And eventually they can't. Honestly, you can't really give men a lot of credit for what they're able to do, because I know as women, like, we can keep up that level of communication and intimacy and like display of affection and stuff, but men just don't have that in them. So if they really lead with that, I think that's something to note and to flag. How to keep a conversation going. One of my friends thinks I'm really, really good at starting conversations on like dating apps and stuff. I think, first of all, keeping a conversation going is simple, because you can find a question, go off of that, then go off of that question. Especially when you're in like college age, like, oh, where do you go to school? What are you studying? What interests you about that? What da 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 da. And it should be a balance. Okay, you should mutually be asking each other the same amount of questions, and typically like whenever you're having a conversation, the next question will pop into your head and then you'll keep it going from there. If the conversation ever feels forced or that it's really, really hard to have, that's probably just not a person for you. I have had many conversations on, dating apps, DMs, text messages, where it feels like really, really hard to have that conversation. And typically, the minute it starts feeling hard to have a conversation, I stop. I, if the effort is not being put in on both sides, you just stop the conversation there. My other biggest piece of advice that I have always stood by when it comes to dating is being yourself. I have never really once changed myself in front of a man that had a crush on. I kind of pride myself in the fact that I will talk to a man the same way I talk to my friends. I will overshare. I will tell all the details. I will never try to cover up all of like the really weird and unsettling parts of myself to please a man. Because at the end of the day, if you hide that stuff in the beginning and then you show it like a month or two in, and then they're like, oh wait, you're actually like really, really weird, like I don't like this, then what's that going to do for you? It's just going to waste your time. I give men everything up front, and I'm completely myself up front, because if they like that off of first bat, it's not going to ruin something later down the line. Does that make sense? So, also, if you're scared to be yourself around somebody, that's a red flag. Sometimes there's just people that intimidate you. They don't make you feel comfortable. They don't feed off of what you're giving them. And that's something to note as well. It's like sometimes maybe the conversation won't flow. You won't feel normal. You won't feel comfortable. But that is not a you problem. That is just a connection. And it's not there. It's a chemistry read with your hinge match. Get it? Theater kid things. The next topic is one that I have kind of been thinking about for a while and having a little bit of a debate on, because my mom is always the kind of person, my mom is the kind of person to always say, the right person won't let you leave. Like, the right person wouldn't just let you walk away. And I always see these TikToks where it's like, oh, you're really gonna tell your daughter that your husband broke up with you? You're really gonna tell your daughter that, like, your boyfriend didn't want, like, your husband didn't want to date you and he broke up with you and he left you? But there's the other idea of, if you love somebody, let them go. And I think it's perfectly right to understand that you could be head over here. What? Oh, it's getting late, you guys. It's getting late. It's past my bedtime. It's almost 10 p.m. Hello? You can be totally head over heels for somebody and just be too young. And you have to let them go so that you can both grow separately and to become the better version of yourselves, and to hope that you grow into the people that you need to become so you can come back together and be better for each other. I also think there's the idea of, like, if you love somebody, let them go. If they come back, it's meant to be. What's that saying? It's like, if they come back, it all goes in a circle. I think if you and this other person are ready for a relationship, then the right person wouldn't let you leave, right? If you're both in the place that you want to be in life, but they still let you walk away, they still let you leave, then that is the red flag. I need to let my dog out. Hold on. The longer and longer this goes on, feel like I'm starting to make less and less sense. But the last piece of relationship advice that I could think of today is, your feelings are your feelings and they deserve to be heard and understood. A lot of the times in my first relationship, I would voice these opinions, voice these problems, these unsettling feelings I had, and they would usually be taken as, you're overreacting, you're overthinking, you're crazy, and it would just rework to where I was apologizing for feeling the way that I was feeling. But eventually, I got sick of it. And it's like, if something bothers me, it bothers me. And you should love me enough to want to do something about that. If I'm coming to you and saying, hey, can you make this simple change just because it's something that I prefer? If you loved and cared for what I wanted, then that would be something you would want to actively change. And, a lot of the times in my first relationship also, we would talk about, he was like, you want to just change me into the person that you want me to be. Like, you're just trying to change me. You want to change me. But it's like, I am going to voice to you what I feel, and it's up to you to change how you react, or to change how you respond, or to change the actions that you're doing to make me feel this kind of way. If you care, which I don't know if he did, but you should never feel like it is your fault for things hurting you. You know, like there was times where he was texting people where I didn't want him to text them. And he'd be like, "You're crazy. That's a friend. I'm going to text my friend. Da 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 da." You know, stuff like that. That was like kind of a poor example. But I think if the right person really, really cared about you, they could, one, have a full conversation about where they were coming from in that situation. And two, they would want to make a change in their routine to appease the way you feel, or to make you feel more comfortable and safe and secure in that relationship. Also, the last thing I could add is just communication. I mean, for fuck's sake, sorry, but I feel like so many people my age cannot communicate, and I actually have a friend that like really condemned me on the way I communicate with every single person, because I do pride myself in the way I communicate, and I only can really talk to people that communicate in the same way that I do. And if they don't, I think that's really a lack of consideration. I over communicate with everybody, especially my friends and everything like that. And I think that's something really, really important. And I mean, it should just be very, very simple, you know? Like, if you're ever confused on how the other person's feeling, bring it up. If you ever want clarification on something, ask for it. I don't think there's ever been a time where I asked for clarification, where I asked for, you know, I mean, my first relationship, actually, I lied. But, you know, with the right person, you can say, "Hey, I just wanted to talk about this. I don't really know how I feel about it." And a really, really good person, maybe the right person, would walk you through it, talk you through it, like help to understand where you're coming from, help you to understand where they're coming from, etc. You know, I'm not going to go on about the concept of communication because it's really something that we should all be good at by now. And if you're not good at it, practice it. Anyways, that's going to bring this episode to an end. I hope this was interesting and also helpful. I love talking about these things. I feel like I do have a really good sense of dating, relationships, and stuff like that. And, you know, like talking about some of these things made me feel a little bit better that I was by myself, you know, on Valentine's Day. So I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you made it to this point, like, please like and subscribe. Please. I love you. Have a great day. Hugs and kisses. And I'll see you in my next one.